At one point almost made me lose my focus, but my ace in the hole was my base in the soul. Then I run back into you.
What's good, everybody? Welcome to the L.U.V podcast. You have your host here, L.U.V Jones.
And it's your boy Drake.
All right, and today we got a very special guest, everybody. We got Carmen Richardson. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to be on the podcast. I appreciate both of you guys having me on here and just ready to speak game knowledge, right? And just having an open conversation about where we are right now in the world.
Absolutely. And so we're gonna get straight into it. And for the viewers who may not know about you at home, you mind giving a quick introduction to yourself?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Of course, born and bred 252 Rocky Mount, all the way Griffon. So if you got anything to say about a Griffon, we're gonna have to end the podcast real quick. But
That's crazy.
um
Yeah.
Keep all comments to yourself at this point.
yeah, obviously proud of where we come from, proud of where I come from. Moved up to Charlotte and for college. I went to Queens University for first 3 years of my education. Played basketball. I was fortunate enough to keep playing basketball after high school. I did that. Actually moved closer to home. Went to Wesleyan and finished out my degree my fourth year, which was exciting. I feel like I've been all over the world somewhat when it comes to schools, but when I finished up, I played my grad year at Barton, which brought me even closer to home or being near home so my family could watch me play my last year closer. And I actually just finished up my master's in 2020 at UNCP.
Okay.
So Pembroke definitely is also close to me, especially being native. Um, I think like I told you guys, I'm going on my third year of trading. I've been in this game now since the thick of things, April 2020. Yeah, 2020, as
Okay.
soon as the
Okay.
pandemic hit. I
Yeah.
currently, right now, professionally, I work at Wells Fargo. Right now, I'm in institutional investment banking. So I deal with all the big businesses who want to trade through Wells Fargo. That's been exciting. This is a new kind of role for me because previously I worked in the commercial real estate and real estate space as a mortgage broker and learning all that I could in that space, which I feel like it did, which led me into my next phase of learning finances. So definitely that's a little bit about me.
Yeah. That's outstanding. I ain't gonna lie to you. Congrats to you, getting your bachelor's and your master's. Um, and what did you say you got your master's in?
I got it in business administration, concentration in finance. So yeah,
Okay.
MBA.
Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to you for that.
For sure.
Yeah.
Man, I tell you,
That's very important to have right now, like especially with like there's a gap in that
Yeah.
type of knowledge for us right now. So
there is, and it used to be like, I'm gonna be honest with you, it used to be like, okay, I know when I graduated, everybody said like, all you got to do is get your bachelor's. All you got to do is do 4 years, and you can put yourself in a great position with companies. And then I remember when I first got out of school, in 2018, I was like, when I was having conversation with some of these like companies, I was like, wait a minute, y'all are looking at me like an entry level person, and
Yeah.
you're not gonna do that. Like I didn't spend 4 years busting my butt to expand myself to not get paid what I felt like I was worth. And
Right.
I
right.
think that was hard. So then I was like, okay, well, I took a year off and was like, we're gonna get your master's and we're gonna buckle down because now when you walk into a room and you got that title behind your name, people have to look at you with a sense of like, oh, okay, like I deserve to
Okay.
walk into any room and be there and have a conversation with you. I got my master's.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
so that's really what it was. It was more that status of like, okay, you can't dismiss me now. You're gonna pay me what I'm worth.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because that's important too. Because unfortunately, a lot of people like to blackball us, especially you being, double minority, being a woman as well. They really like to blackball us and you in general, women. So yes, I'm glad that you have that confidence about yourself and you can walk in any room and not only command and respect, you have the
Yeah.
accolades and the knowledge to back that. So that's very important and kudos to you.
I appreciate that. I think it's just mainly because, and I give a lot of credit now to like I'm a millennial, so the people behind us, right, the generation behind us, Gen Zers, they really are like hitting this out of the like park with it's like, nah, we're not gonna do that. Y'all are not
Yeah.
gonna overwork me and underpay me.
Right.
And I remember when I was first going into college, my dad was like, be either an engineer or work in business and finance and get a government job. That was his thing. Like, try and get a government job. They're gonna pay you good benefits and you get to retire. And I'm like, that's not the mindset no more, Pop. Like,
That's real.
it's we're
Yeah.
It's
not
not.
doing that anymore.
Um,
Yeah. That's
to
real.
be real, like at this point, if you're not going into like cloud-based networking, daggone data analytics,
Yup.
finance, banking, like if you're not going into those right now, it's kind of like you're gonna get a good job. Like, don't get me wrong, like those aren't all these other professions aren't bad, but they're growing. These are the fastest expanding fields right now. And they're paying
Yeah.
a lot. They're paying money for people to sit at home and just have the knowledge to know how to run things.
You have no idea. Like I feel like sometimes, and I'm proud to say, like, because like I said, me and my sisters, we have 5 years apart from each of us. And I
Mhm.
think when I look at my experience versus theirs, I'm like, every job I've ever gone to, I've gotten at least a 15 to 20% increase in my pay, because like what we're not gonna do is be somewhere past a year and we
Mhm.
not have a conversation of money. Like, let's be honest, 3 to 5% really isn't doing much for me. When
Right.
right now the world that we live in, inflation is 8.2. So
Yeah.
I'm not making
It's
money.
like I'm not making no money there.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. That's real. Yeah, that's definitely real. And speaking of inflation and things of that nature, you say you first got into trading back in April 2020. So what made you get into it?
I think wanting a different life for myself. I always said that I was blessed and highly favored growing up.
Okay.
I had a house, right? I had clothes, I had food on the table, and that was all. Shout out to my parents. But was it the lavish lifestyle? Was it the things that I felt like my life had wanted? No, not necessarily. So I said, okay, what can I do to become like a 1%er, right? What can I do to create generational wealth? Because when I look at what my grandparents did for my parents and what my parents were doing for me, they were doing everything that they could with what they could. So I
Right.
said, okay, like, how can I be that barrier, right? I think for me, my dad not having any sons, I looked at my like kind of like we talked about earlier, you put a lot of pressure on yourself to be the strong one. And I was the same way. I felt like, okay, I'm my dad's legacy. I might not, be his son, but I looked at it like, okay, I'm going to make sure that my parents know going forward that I did everything to leave something behind. And so I was like, okay, what can I do? And I just put my head down and said, okay, I'm noticing that a lot of people who are smarter than me, richer than me, are in the stock market. And I said, okay, let's get into it. And that's exactly what I did. I'm at home in my room, quarantine, can't do nothing, can't leave. Why not open up a book? Why not use my resources that I do have to expand my knowledge in this? And that's what I
Right.
did.
Man, yeah. And I'm glad you used that time wisely. I know I was contemplating school myself. I was, when it first happened, of course, like I was, coming off of spring break. And so
Mm,
That's right. Yeah.
I was happy I got an extra week, of not having any school, but um,
mm,
coming back and just having to transition to all online classes and me already being on the fence of what I wanted to do next, it kind of was just hard, it was definitely
mm.
hard for me to figure out what I wanted to do next, because of course this is something that in our lifetime we never seen something like this.
Never,
Yeah,
never,
No, like I
never
still
could have
am very
predicted it. But
yeah,
right. Like I'm
yeah,
still shocked that it happened. Like the fact
yeah,
that our world really hit shutdown mode. Like you can't leave your house. You gotta cover up your mouth. You gotta
yeah,
do XYZ. Toilet paper is being sold on Amazon for $30. Like I was like, wait a minute. It
yeah,
was the most craziest thing. And funny, like I know 10, 20 years from now, we're gonna be in the history books and our kids are gonna look at us like, yo, that really happened. And I'm gonna be like,
Yeah.
yep, I couldn't
Yeah.
leave.
That's real. As you know,
Yeah.
it was definitely unprecedented times. And so I'm glad you was using that time wisely to get into the books and things of that nature. And getting into that knowledge, like what were some of the things that you picked up from, having that time?
Yeah, honestly, I think the number one thing was just being patient with myself and understanding like going into this game of the stock market can be overwhelming. It can be like,
Yeah.
oh my God, it's like if you saw a whole bunch of formulas, but it's tickers, right? You're seeing all these companies and you are kind of like, oh man, like I can't even believe it's this many companies out here in the world, like especially ones you never heard of.
Yeah.
So it can be overwhelming, but I was learning like just be patient with yourself because starting is always the hardest thing, right? When you have like $1 million idea, anybody will always tell you the hardest thing is just to start. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, so I did that. I was just like, okay, be patient with yourself and let's be safe, right? Like because of the money that I'm using to invest, it's my hard-earned money. Like
Yeah.
you can either lose it all or you can gain something and grow in a beautiful state. And I was like, okay, just do that. Be patient, learn. You'll take some losses, but when you lose, I feel like it's just like failures or making mistakes in your life. You learn from those and you grow from those, and it expands your mind on how to make sure you appreciate what you have. And the losses that I did take was absolutely like tremendous for my brain to just expand on how to take care of my money in ways. And so
Right.
that's really what I took away, like those three things.
That's what's up.
That's
Um,
fact. So, like, speaking of like taking losses, like give a little bit about how to take a L, like really just how to take a L, because like you gotta
Yeah.
be closer that everybody don't necessarily know how
yeah.
to take real L's. Those are real L's because you get to
Yeah.
see like commas behind those L's, and you're like,
Yeah. So
ooh.
Yeah, I work
so
overtime
the
tomorrow.
crazy part is, yeah, so like when I first got into the game, like I said, I was in options, and with options, it's like you buy one option trade, which essentially is like 100 shares, right? You buy one
Right,
contract, and it's like 100 shares into this one company. And so, say I bought it for like $2. All right, so $2 times 100 is $200. That means for that one investment, I spent $200, right?
right,
So I don't just hop into things blind. Like I want people to understand that. Like I took the time to look at charts. I looked at news. I was like looking at anything that I could to make sure I was making a educated decision with where I was putting my money. And I think that's huge. Like it's not like betting parlays on a football game. Like this is like you are legit studying this market because it's all about the future, right? I think the stock market is a big prediction of the future where we're going to see the world economy wise, business wise, things like that. So what I would do, especially I'll never forget this moment. I at this time Tesla was huge. Okay. Now, Tesla was big. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody wanted a Tesla. Everybody was like buying into the stock. And I was like, okay, it only makes logical sense. It was like during their earnings that year. I was like, it only makes logical sense that they're going to go up on
Yeah.
their earnings, right?
Right.
And for some reason, I didn't realize at that time because I was new into the game that sometimes with earnings, it's automatically equals volatility. Okay. That
Oh,
right,
means it
right.
can go the opposite way and you can go from
Yeah, yeah.
making thousands of dollars to straight out zero. Like you'll wake up the next morning and you'll see a big flat zero and your option is dead. And I remember that happened to me. I was like, oh snap, like how could it not go up? And
yeah.
then I started learning, okay, this is why earnings are so volatile. Like everybody is betting on this at this one
Yeah,
time that on
yeah.
this day when they release their option, like their earnings and what they've done that quarter is going to go up or go down. And you don't realize that there's so many people betting against the stock just as much as they're betting it will go up. So I started to learn in my experience that trading every day it'll help you, but also knowing when to press like that button to get into the trade is also
Gotcha.
important. You
Yeah.
don't always have to take a trade. You don't always have to invest your money on that particular day. Like
Yeah.
there's 365 days. Stock
Right.
market is only closed a couple of days out of the entire year. You can
Gotcha.
wait and actually feel confident about what you do and not feel pressured. And I think that is what was also hard, like feeling the outside pressure of everybody talking about it. The news was talking about it, Twitter was talking about it, YouTubers were talking about it, all these business like gurus were talking about it. So I felt influenced at that point because I was such a new investor. And so I think moving forward, I had made that conscious decision. My analysis, my thought process is mine. If I take a L, it's my L, nobody else's. And that's when I was like, okay, that's how I take a L and stand by my L. And that's how I take a win because I did the work that I needed to do.
Speaking of,
So, oh, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna say, real quick. We're speaking of the work that you're saying that you need to put in, um, and knowing when to, get into a trade. What is the process of getting into your trade? Like, what's your process?
Yeah, like my number one process was, do I like the company? That was like my number one thing. Like,
Mhm.
do I like the company enough to put my money behind it? Right? Do I like the CEO?
Yeah,
What do you stand for? Because to me just hopping in a company just because I want to make money is not enough for me. Like I wanted every single one of my, like the way I look at it now, my mindset, like I said, has changed tremendously. So like every single dollar that I own that belongs to me is like an employee, right? Like my money works for me. And that was my mindset. So I was like, okay, do I want to invest into these companies, CEOs? What are your businesses like? Are
Yeah.
you expanding? Are you growing, or are you just staying like this, coasting because you're good at what you do? For example, like Intel, I think Intel being a chip maker, they've only been that company for so long, and I feel like they just stay like this. They
yeah,
don't do anything different. They don't expand. I feel like they don't really have a growth plan anymore. They just stay right here. But then
Yeah.
you have AMD and you got Nvidia and you got these
Yeah.
companies who are like, oh no, we growing. We
yeah.
doing XYZ, and this is how we're gonna change the game. This is
Mhm.
how we're going to partner with other great companies because we want to be great companies. And that was the difference for me on if I was going to invest in Intel versus AMD or Nvidia.
Mm.
So yeah, definitely companies was like the number one thing. The second thing was like I'm looking at reports. That's like the boring part of things. That's the hard part because you sometimes don't know what
Yeah.
to look for. I was looking at how much cash on hand do you have? How much debt do you have? How much liabilities that you have? And the way I looked at it was I broke it down. Same thing like I do a budget. I think everybody does a budget now. You look at how much money you got coming in versus how much you got going out, and you
Right.
weigh out like what you're spending that money on. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And so I was looking at that. I was looking at financial reports. And then I was also looking at like the latest news based off of like the stock market, right? Because I feel like every sector has like its season, right? Everybody goes through their season of change. Everybody's like feeling good going into like the fall or into
Yeah.
the winter, and other companies don't. They
What
don't
do you
do well during those times. And so I was making sure I was seeing, okay, is this company in their peak? Are they in their season right now? Or are they kind of just coasting, going with the market and the flow of things? So
Got it.
those were like the ways I looked at companies.
So I have a question. Actually, I have two questions for you.
Okay.
Um, First question, for someone who has to, like, you said you learned this over COVID, so you really wasn't like doing the whole like for real 9 to 5 thing. Were you like at the time during COVID?
Yeah, no, I was literally doing this from home. So I worked for a commercial real estate group. I was
Okay,
a analyst. I was actually like kind of doing the data stuff
gotcha.
for so I was doing that at home. Um and I think that's another expectation that I have to set. Like other than just working like nine to
Yeah,
five, I knew there was like way more time in the day. Like if
right.
there's 24 hours in a day, I work 8, what am I doing? Like, okay, say I sleep 8. So now I'm at 16. What am I doing for the other like amount of
Eight.
time?
Yeah, you still got 8 more hours to
Right. Like, what am
do
I
what you gotta
doing?
do.
And so that's what it was. Like, I just changed my mindset. Like, there will be some days I would wake up at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. That doesn't work for everybody, which is cool. Some people are like late night owls. And so there was times
Yeah,
where I would stay up late. Sometimes I didn't get 8 hours of sleep because I don't sleep that like long. I feel like that's a little bit too long, in my
yeah,
opinion. But
yeah.
I was just finding the times in between my day. Like after I did my work, I was still studying. Like if I got a project done or if I got something done, I was still listening. I had my headphones on, listening. I'm taking in information as much as I could because I was like,
Right.
okay, same way like people right now are getting certificates licensing in 3 months. I was the same way. I was like, okay, what can I do to be really good at what I'm doing within a 3 to 6 month time frame?
Right.
Got you. You
Okay.
said,
Okay. Second question. So, with you having a 9 to 5, like, what was your, well, let's say for our 9 to 5ers out there who
Yeah.
don't necessarily have the time to do the studying,
Hmm.
like, what can they do on the trading side to like still like hop in there and get their feet wet?
For sure. The number one thing I will say is being consistent, right? And what I mean by consistency, once you start, this is the easiest way that I found working 9 to 5. Because like right now, I work a very strenuous job where I can't be on my phone during the day. Like I cannot, like literally because of the stuff that I'm dealing with every day, I can't be on my phone, can't even open up my laptop other than my work laptop. So for me, the same way that people say like split up your paychecks, right? 50% for your bills, 30% for savings, and however you do it, right? Everybody's
Yeah.
different. I got to the point the past year because, like I expressed to you guys, my mindset has changed from options to long term investing right now due to the economy. So, what I have specifically done is changed up my deposits, right? I get paid every 2 weeks, right? So, bi weekly, I get paid. And I have a certain amount of money that goes specifically to my trading account where I never see it. And it automatically distributes that money into the stocks that I want without me having to do a single thing, and it keeps me accountable of investing every month without me seeing the money leave my account because it's like I'm
That's cool.
saving, I'm
That's cool.
going
That's
to
cool. That's
something,
cool.
yeah, like I'm
Yeah,
saving, I'm
yeah,
doing what I need to grow. And I think that's the mindset, out of sight, out of mind.
yeah.
It's automatically doing what I needed to do and it's growing without me having to open up my account unless I want to.
and so, speaking on of that, how is that something that you like had to sign up for a specific bank, or like how does that process work?
Great question.
Yeah.
So me specifically, I work with um I only put my money in Fidelity, and I have a TD Ameritrade account. Those two have worked very good for me. I have had a Vanguard like 401k through employers and stuff like that. So I've gotten a little bit familiar with Vanguard systems as well. But ideally, Fidelity and TD Ameritrade are the two that I use. And the reason why is because they literally set it up for you. You go into your settings, you go into your account, you say bi-weekly, take this money out and distribute. Like you tell it exactly what to do. And this is like the most amazing part about technology. Back in the day, you couldn't do nothing like that. You literally had to call or you had to like get a check and do XYZ, go to an investment advisor. Now it's kind of like, unless you genuinely want somebody to help you with your finances, I don't really think a lot of people need a financial advisor. That's just my opinion. I think in some ways, yes, but when you are knowledgeable in your own way, you take control of that. Like that was my whole mindset. So I can do all my investments, all my trades by myself without having to pay a fee to anybody. Um, that was me. So yeah, investments for sure. Settings, TD Ameritrade, Fidelity, they do it all for you.
Yeah.
Crazy part is, let's talk about this, right? A lot of people will make the excuse, Carmen, I can't give $200 to one stock. I only buy one stock and it costs that much money to have one share into that stock. And I'm like, it doesn't matter how much money you put into a company.
Yeah.
Having a partial bit of ownership is better than none.
Real.
Nah,
It's
yeah,
real.
exactly.
It's real
100%.
because look, I was happy about my little 2 shares of Square when I bought them for half off. I was like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, I'm good.
Yeah.
I mean, and like, let's get into it. Also, like, there are companies who go through what we call a stock split. It
Hmm.
doesn't always happen, but when it does, it's literally like a gold mine for people who are like us or even older who have never gotten into the stock market and to literally have a little skin in the game, man. Like,
Yeah.
because like I think us as, and let's talk about it, like us as minorities, us as people of color, we make a lot of excuses that things are too expensive and that I can't do something because
Yeah.
of what that like our eyes see. And in
Yeah.
actuality, they're giving us all the opportunities and they think, okay, we done made this opportunity, we done did this, we went from a three, for example, Amazon. I used to say the same thing. I ain't got $3,500 to put into one company. Like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But $50, $80, $100, that adds up, and I'm
Yeah.
still
There you
owning
go.
partial until guess what? All of a sudden they did a stock split, and when they did the stock split, it went to $124. Hmm. Amazon, that used to be a $3,500 company, did a stock split, so now I can own a lot of shares for $120 or less. Sign
Yeah.
me up. And
Yeah.
guess what? Because I already had partial ownership, my now like couple of partial
Yeah.
ownerships turn into one, two, three,
Yeah.
four shares.
Right.
Now it goes from partial ownership to now, like I got skin in the game. I got more than one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And,
when they, oh, not to cut you off, I was gonna
no,
say
no, no, no.
they do another stock split. Now you own even more shares. Yeah.
Exactly. It's just like just starting, like I said, is the hardest part, but having a little bit of skin in the game is all you need. Like,
Mhm.
it doesn't matter. Same thing. Google did a stock split. Come
Yeah.
on. These are huge companies that have been around who are still growing and developing, and they are giving opportunity for people like us
Yeah.
to take advantage. And if
Yeah.
we don't, it's still making other people look at us and laughing because they're like, literally, I made millions of dollars off of this.
So
You
I
didn't.
gave it to you. I
I
gave
gave
it.
it
We
to you
gave it to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
and you still didn't
Discounted.
take it.
Yeah.
Like,
Discounted.
right, I'm giving
Yeah.
you discounts on discounts and you still don't take it. What more do you want from me? And that's literally how I feel like a lot of people look and say about what we're willing to do to change our own scenario and narrative about what we're given. Like, regardless of the education, regardless of the disparities that we don't have, which is true. Like, I get it. I got my whole bachelor's and my master's, and I promise you guys, as I say this right now, I didn't learn anything about the stock market from my actual degrees until like my final year of grad school, like for my
What?
MBA. And that is
So
crazy.
they
Yeah.
really
Dang.
okay. So when you're getting, so I had the misconception that that's like part of the curriculum, like throughout the whole curriculum. Like
Yeah.
that's wild. So really, this information is almost kind of like safeguarded, quote unquote. Like if you
Yeah.
don't know where to look,
Correct.
just start
There you
looking.
go. Just said it. It's safeguarded. Like, I remember in my financial courses, like, yeah, they spoke on it to the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Like, it was like very small, but it was like right over anybody's head. Like, it was not in detail. I will say that much. And so I learned more about business law than I did about the stock market, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but you're 100% correct. It's very much safeguarded. It's very much safe kept, unless you're having certain conversations or asking particular questions.
Right.
The book and the doors are not going to open. I think that was one of my biggest frustrations with even high school, right? Like,
Yeah.
not every curriculum offers a financial educational class about stocks, about credit, and things like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know I didn't get it at
Yeah.
that time, but people all over the world in certain areas do get it. And I'm so happy. Like, I have a niece who's 7. I'm so happy that one day she'll be able to get to a certain age where she knows this before she even turns 15.
Right. Yeah. And I feel like, it's unfortunate, what I'm saying, that we didn't get that, while we was in school and things of that nature. That is very unfortunate because, some of some of that knowledge, like learning about just, setting aside $5 to and add it up every paycheck. Just, what I'm saying, just setting aside even 5, 10, as much as you can, as much as you want. And
Yeah.
that adds up. Because if I look
Hmm.
at high school, like I left high school, yeah, this is 5 years, 5 years ago, graduated 2017. If I'd have known to do that 5 years ago, I could have had like a lot of shares into a company, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just after graduating. And but I think it's amazing now that we have more access to this knowledge,
Hmm.
through YouTube and things of that nature. And so I definitely thank you for sharing this. And
Yeah.
this, I
I
know.
think the way that I look at it is, like I said, I like shoes. I've always been a
Yeah.
sneakerhead. I've always enjoyed it. And then there was a point in time when I was in college where I was like, I'm gonna have to trade in my sneakers one day.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to put on dress clothes every single day. I'm gonna have to wear loafers. I'm gonna have to wear heels. I'm gonna have to do all this stuff. And I was like, then I started to learn, okay, Jordan is making the same shoes. And mind you, I love Jordan. Okay. I buy them.
Yeah.
So you can't call me a hypocrite because I still buy them.
Yeah.
Um, I was buying these shoes and I was like, okay, now that I'm learning all about these stocks, let me learn about what Jordan really pays to make these shoes, because it's the same shoe coming out every year with
Yeah.
like one or two changes, whether it's the material that's used, maybe one change in line design, whatever. We buy them every single year consistently, faithfully.
Yeah.
And I wear a size 9 in men. Okay. So that means I have to pay $200+ to buy these shoes. And I was like, okay, hmm, what can I spend this money on every month? I can put it in my Roth IRA. And by the time I hit 45 or 50 or 60 years old and I decide to pull this money, I'm going to have at least $1.5 million off of $200 a month. Now, if I buy two shoes or two pairs a month, that's $400 that I put into a Roth IRA compared to buying two pairs of shoes that I probably will throw away eventually, or at least outwear them or give them to
Yeah.
someone else
You know
that
what I'm saying?
that I'm not making any money
No
on.
return. No
No
return.
return, right? That
Right.
was my biggest thing. I want my money to make me more money.
Yeah.
How do I do that? Okay, like I just said, you can do it blindly. Okay, so of course, with, like, for example, a Roth IRA, you can have a max contribution at a certain amount of money, but I encourage every single person to max out their Roth IRA. That's why they put in these. If anybody ever thinks about why do they put in these restrictions of how much money I can put into my Roth IRA, because they know that you're going to make so much money 20, 30, 40 years from now that they don't want to give you all that money. That's
Yeah.
why they put these limitations on stuff. Same thing with the 401k.
I didn't know
Please.
that. I didn't know there were like limits on it. I just
Yeah,
know when
it's
you can't put money in there, you just put what you want to put in there.
yeah, no. So, okay, let me pull up right now because I know that they're changing it or having the like conversation
Is that like a
right
year
now.
thing or is that like per month?
Yeah. No, no, no. It's a yearly thing. So max
Okay.
contributions are like $6,500
I was
for,
just about to ask that. Yeah.
yeah, it's like $6,500, I believe, for your Roth IRA, which is
They won't
crazy.
even let you. They won't even let you put 100,000 in there.
No.
That's
Mm-mm.
wild.
Same thing, 401k. It literally says you can put up to $100,000
All right. Welcome back to the Love Podcast, everyone. You have your host here, Love Jones.
And this your boy Drake.
And
and I'm Carmen. Right? Like, just add me onto the little snippet.
yeah. Yeah. So, um, what were the I guess the financial limits for the IRA?
Yeah, so Roth IRA, they're trying to increase it right now, but the max right now of contributions you can put in per year is $6,500.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And then your 401k, I think right now they're again having conversations. They're trying to increase it. Right now it's at $22,500.
Okay.
So what I want people to take away from that is max out your contributions every year to the best of your abilities. Why? That's like 200, 400, $500 a month that you could put in to max out these things, especially your Roth IRA that can help you when you retire become a millionaire, like literally. It's so crazy because for me, for example, I am a firm believer in ETFs. ETFs
Right.
is essentially where instead of buying one share into one company, These ETFs are allowing you to pay one price to buy multiple companies.
Right.
And so that's the crazy part. So for example, like one of my favorite ETFs is XLY. So let me plug y'all. So XLY is like a consumer discretionary fund. Okay, that's what it's called. Um, Within this consumer discretionary XLY, let's say for example, it's $100 to buy this XLY like ETF.
Mhm.
This makes up holdings, right? So these companies make up this ETF. So the way that I put it is the number one holder or company in this is Amazon. Let's talk about it. We already said before, Amazon used to be like a $3,000+ company, and
Right.
now that it's done the stock split, it's like $124 or less. Well, that's the number one holding. Eventually, it's going to get back to $3,000 unless they do a stock split again, which is great. But
Right.
it's at a huge discount. And the way that I put it is, okay, Amazon is your number one person in this consumer discretionary. Your second person is Tesla, another huge company, innovative, changing the game with electrical vehicles. Now everybody's coming out with electrical vehicles. Every
Right.
car company is trying to do it now, but you
Yep.
Have
still
to.
can't be better than the
Have to.
number one company who created it.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like Elon Musk, I think he's very I don't know how to describe him. He's an interesting character as a CEO, but
Very.
in regards to his mind, he is beyond smart. He's brilliant in my
Yeah.
opinion. So you got Amazon, Tesla, and then the third consumer discretionary like top holder, right? Like the main people that are in this fund is Home Depot.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it because in 2020, when everybody was stuck at home
Yeah.
and was bound to being in their house, a lot of people noticed, dang, my house look real janky. What can I do to
Oh,
make my
yeah.
house beautiful? And next thing you know, everybody's going to Home Depot. Everybody went to Lowe's and they did home improvements.
Bruh.
Labor was
Busting.
up. Right.
Busting. I was in there too. Yeah. Yeah. They was in there. Like, listen.
Everybody. Everybody was fixing their house. Everybody wanted their home to be beautiful. Everybody wanted something different. They wanted to revamp their kitchen. That's $10,000, $20,000 that you spending to do that. Where are you getting that material from? Home Depot.
Yeah.
Home Depot. I'm going to Home Depot. And so Home Depot stock, I think during the pandemic went up at least 30%. Like I know bare minimum
Yeah.
30%. Probably went up even more. I know every single
Crazy.
company in 2020 we saw between 2020 and 2021 hit 52-week highs. That
Yeah.
doesn't always happen, but
Yeah.
that's where we were headed. Everything was hitting 52-week highs. And so let me just do this or say this. Whenever you're trying to figure out like when is the quote unquote best time to buy a stock, right? Like everybody wants to have that conversation too. Like, Carmen,
Right.
when do I buy? Well, you
Mhm.
buy all the time, in my opinion. When you're a long-term investor, every month you're investing. It doesn't matter when you buy. Okay. But if you're trying to find the best time, look at the 52-week high, right? It tells you you can literally just Google Amazon stock and it'll tell you 52-week high, 52-week low. And the number one thing that we always hear is buy low, sell high, right? We hear this a lot. We hear this term a lot. And people are still always wondering, like, but what if it goes lower? Then buy more.
Yeah.
Right.
Buy buy more. Like, don't be scared because like honestly, you're never like failing in the stock market if you are a long-term investor because you're constantly having the opportunity to buy more and you can sell when it's in profit. Whatever your profit margins are, you can take whenever you want to. Nobody has a gun to your head telling you to sell it right now.
Mhm.
All the noise is what people hear.
Yeah.
Like, and that's what people have to like understand. You have to block out noise. Trust yourself, trust your profits, trust your money. Like when I was in options, I was selling at 15% in profit compared to 100%.
Yeah.
And why was that? Because I wanted guaranteed money. I'll get to 100% eventually
Yeah.
in profit and gains, but I want 15%. 15% grows to 20%. 20% then goes to 25%. And that was my mindset. I don't have to be money hungry.
Yeah.
Why?
Right.
Because there's money out there to be
Out there
made
for
and I will make it.
every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. There's like so much money in this game. And so long term investing, it was like my mindset of marriage. Okay.
Yeah.
When you buy long term stocks, whether it's in your Roth IRA, whether it's in your 401k, whether you're buying in a regular individual brokerage account, these stocks are your partners. These are your long-term partners. This is your husband. This is your wife. This is who you are committed to, no matter what they are doing. AKA, all of a sudden, there's a scandal or
Yeah.
somebody did something in the whatever. But if you believe in the company, you believe in the products, this goes back to the CEO. Please invest in companies that you personally want to be a part of, that you identify with. Like,
Right.
I'm a firm Apple believer. I love Apple. I
Mm-hmm.
loved Apple back in the day before I
Yeah.
even knew what Apple was. Like, I was obsessed with computers, and Apple was like the only thing I wanted to play with. I had the little iPad, the little Nano, like all that
Yeah.
stuff. Like, that was me. I had a green one, by the way. Like, that one was dope.
Yeah.
So thinking about it, like in retrospective, I'm a firm believer in Apple. And I think Apple by far is not just a tech company. And I think that's what makes it such a great company to invest in. Like, Apple is a probably one of the best companies that we've ever witnessed in the world, honestly. Like, it's crazy to say that, because when you look at it, they're in health. They do a lot for the community. They're doing whatever they can to expand. And it's so crazy. Once you buy one Apple product, tell me another person who leaves Apple to get another product. And let alone, if I buy a MacBook, I also got an iPhone. I also
Yeah.
have AirPods.
Yeah.
You don't just buy one product, you buy all their products.
Yeah.
So why not be in that,
It's
right?
like
Why
as
not?
invested as you are in your personal financially.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think that was what I like. And then not only that, like Apple is also kind of like at almost their 52-week low. Like, they're in the middle. They've dropped, like, of course, lower, like currently right now. But the way the world is right now, let's just call it what it is. Like, we kind of are already in a recession, whether like people say it out loud or if they're scared of it. Like, the next 6 to 8 months is really going to be a time where people have the opportunity to change their life for the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
What you do in the next 6 to 8 months, or let's just call it a year,
Year.
what you
Yeah.
do in the next year can set up your future for the next 5 to 10. But how important is that for you?
Yeah.
Is really the question.
Right.
That's
And
that's real. That's real.
yeah, I did have a couple questions to touch on
Yeah.
you were saying. So first of all, what is the difference between a Roth IRA and a 401k?
Yeah. So the best way that I always describe this to anybody is a 401k, right? You're already normally, let's say your employer matches you in your 401k contributions. Okay. That money is not taxed until you pull it out when you retire. That's the best way to describe it. So when you turn like 62 and a half or 65 and a half, whatever the retirement age is now,
Yeah.
when you pull that money out, it's not taxed until you pull it out. So let's say you open up your account, your 401k is at like $2 million. You really aren't going to see $2 million when you take it out after taxes, fees, and stuff like that. It's more than likely going to be taxed about 20-30%.
Right.
So the reason why I like Roth IRAs is because it's already taxed when you put this money in. So when you take it out when you retire, it's not going to be taxed again. So
Okay.
everything that you see in that Roth IRA is your money. So when you take
Cool.
it out, there is no more taxes.
Got you.
That's the best part. And I always tell people definitely max out your Roth IRA, because it's a smaller amount that's doable. The best part about a Roth IRA, if you trade through Fidelity or TD Ameritrade or whoever you have your account set up through, you can literally buy ETFs, index funds, regular stocks and shares in your Roth IRA. You don't have to just buy whatever they tell you to buy. You can buy a ETF. You can do whatever you want within that account. There used to be where you couldn't do that at all. You could only buy like one thing, multiple shares of a company, and that was all. But it's not that case anymore. And I think people need to take advantage of that, but still use both accounts. They have different benefits too. Like, people use their 401k towards buying a home. Not saying that's the smartest thing, but people do that. It's an asset that you own. And not only that, you can pull from it in certain
Situations.
in certain
Yeah,
situations
yeah,
and
it
not
has
be
to.
penalized for taking it out early. So
Right.
it's best to really have a 401k and a Roth. So that's really the difference between the two.
Okay. And my second question is, I know what a ETF is, but for the viewers at home may not know what an ETF is. What is that, and can anybody get into an ETF and an
Mhm.
index fund?
Yeah, no, great question. So the way that I like to put it is I love analogies because I think sometimes like for me growing up, I didn't understand textbook definitions a lot. Like break it down.
Yeah.
Okay. Be simple. Um, like I said, just say if you were buying like instead of buying one company, like Amazon is one company by itself, that's it, right? You're buying a pool of companies that are looped together in like one big circle. So each ETF will be named something. They're basically kind of divided in their own sector, right? It could be a technology ETF, it could be an oil ETF, it could be a precious metals like gold, silver ETF, right? There's all these different ETFs. But what it does is it allows you to buy a big pool or circle of companies without having to pay for each one of them individually. They're like lumped in. So it's like a big sale for just multiple different ones. I like that because it's called the exchange traded fund. So like I said, XLY, a consumer discretionary one is like one of my favorite ones because it has Amazon in it, Tesla in it, Home Depot, McDonald's, and Nike. Like, let's talk about that. That's like all different spectrums of the thing, but they're all looped up.
Like,
That's
bro,
like the
it's XLY like the Golden State Warriors. Like, bro,
right. Like, think of it
what?
like, yeah, no, that's an even greater way to put it. Like, it's literally like a basketball team, and like, who's your roster, right? Like, who's on your roster, and can I just invest in this one team as a whole compared to one player individually?
Right.
Gotcha.
That's a great way to put it. So even like XLK technology wise, it has like Apple and all the big name tech firms in this one ETF. Like, what? Why would I not?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And can anyone get into an index fund?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes. Individuals can get into ETFs, same way that you look up Amazon stock, you will
yeah.
look up that specific ticker, right? So if you put in consumer discretionary ETF, or if you put in the ticker XLY, it'll specifically pop up. It's one price. Like right now, I just pulled up XLK. It's $124 to buy
That's not
all
bad.
to buy all these groups of companies. So the way that I put it is when Amazon, Tesla, all McDonald's, Nike, if they're all having a green day, right? Everything's going up, everything's groovy, then
Mhm.
your ETF is growing. It's going up. And if the top three companies in the ETF are going green and the other ones in there are kind of red, they're not having a great day, it doesn't necessarily go red. It doesn't mean that you're losing money. And that's the great part about it is like it's not all based off of the top holder, that top player is not all based off of Stephen Curry having a good game. You can still win
Yeah,
regardless if this player is doing great or bad that day. That's the best part.
got you, man. Yeah, because I need to look into getting into some myself. Um,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
safer, it's secure money.
yeah,
Um, you could do it in your Roth, you could do it potentially in your 401k. And if you are into options trading and things like that, you can literally do an options trade on it. It's crazy.
yeah.
So what platform would you suggest for like beginners to get into options trading with?
Mm, smart, smart, smart. So I'm gonna be honest. When I first got into trading, I was on Robinhood. I was on Robinhood because it was an easier platform for me to understand what was going on, and it was
Right.
also an easier platform for me to learn this like charts. Their charting
Right.
was like super like beginner level,
Basic. Yeah.
basic,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? And so it was super helpful. I started there. Another good beginner one is Weeble. That's a very good platform as well because it gives you a more advanced level of the charting, but it's kind of just like Robinhood. I think those two were the best for me. And then of course I eventually just said, okay, like there was a lot going on with Robinhood as a company. I didn't want to necessarily put my money in because they were just still trying to figure out a lot of stuff. And that's when I went into Fidelity and TD Ameritrade, and I've been loyal to them ever since. So I think I would definitely say that TD Ameritrade is more for advanced people. You see a lot more intermediate advanced people on TD Ameritrade. So
I see.
I would say Fidelity. You could also do E-Trade is a very user-friendly place too for beginners.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
like E-Trade. I like E-Trade.
Yeah, I've tried to get on like almost every platform just to like kind of see.
Can you options on Charles Schwab?
Yes, I believe so. You just have to like with options trading, if you want to dive into it, you just have to apply and you have to let them know your risk, how much money you're putting in total, and then they'll give you like an approval, kind of like a credit card. They
Okay.
look at a
Okay.
snapshot and they say, okay, you're approved
Did
to
not
trade.
know that. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's
I thought it was just like buying, just like you would like any other stock, like the same
nope.
process.
You gotta apply. You gotta kind of
Got
like
you.
apply
Got
to
you.
do it. Yep. Because
Okay.
then, because everybody knows like options are more risky, and so they want to make sure that when you're
That
signing
you
on to
know the risk.
that you know the risk, that you understand what you're getting into, and that they don't mind if they don't care if you lose all your money because they making money
Right,
off of
right. They just want you
it.
to know, like for liability reasons, like, look,
Right.
this is risky, my boy.
Right.
You
Like
know what
you.
you're doing. So that's why it's very important, like you said, to go into any situation very educated,
Mhm.
and do your best at crossing your I's, dotting your T's.
Like I'm getting to the point now where, like I said, I'm more of a long-term trader. I'm learning more about futures because I think the futures market teaches you, and that's like a whole different segment, but the futures market really teaches you where the market is going before the market even opens. That's something that I'm learning currently right now, how to trade on. And I think that it's also opening my mind to safer possibilities, right, and gains, but also really like letting me know, okay, as a trader, you're just continuing to evolve, right? You can't just stay still and just feel like, okay, I've done this so far. I'm cool doing this all the time. Like, no, like I want to be a evolving trader on all different types of platforms, right? Not just long term, not just options. I want to get into futures. Forex really isn't for me, but I do know a lot of people that I've met along the way who are forex traders who make a very good living off of forex trading.
Right.
Um, just learn it as an individual and not like under a group of people. Like we
Yeah,
all have seen forex, like
yeah,
Yeah, groups.
probably
Right,
better,
right,
yeah,
right.
groups and being
yeah,
approached by them. Learn it as an individual.
yeah.
Got you.
And I want to touch on the forex trading really quick. I know it's a stigma behind it because of the recruitment process. I do want
Right.
to inform people that forex trading is just like trading stocks and things.
Mm-hmm.
It's just with the foreign exchange markets. The recruitment is for an MLM company, and I don't recommend anybody be a part of MLMs just because I had bad experience with them, and not just with the forex trading aspect, but with I've done a lot of MLMs and it's the same pitches. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to inform people at home like forex trading, the actual trading itself is
Israel.
is real.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Not a
yeah. Definitely
scam.
real.
Yeah,
Definitely real.
it's
Definitely
not a
real.
scam.
Yeah.
But the other part of it, that's to everybody else's discretion. But yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I used to be that way. Like when I was in college, like I felt like I had everybody trying to recruit me, and I was like, "Dang, like this is like a huge Ponzi scheme. Like, why y'all
yeah,
keep trying to like blow me up in my DMs and stuff?" But
yeah.
um, my cousin's husband is a like basically almost a full-time forex trader. Wakes up between the hours of 2 to 5. He
Absolutely.
trades on the market, and he makes literally he trades between that window. He goes to sleep, makes money, and like that's it.
Yeah.
Like it's super easy for a lot of people. There's always a different way to get into it, and I think a lot of ways that I tell people is allow your assets to pay for your liabilities. I think we've all heard that. And if you haven't, you're hearing it from me. Like please allow, like if you get into any type of trading or just investing in general, investing in yourself is investing in your future. So I feel like when you're investing in these stocks, when you're investing in something like this, your education, allow it to pay for the things or the good things that you want to see in life, right? Like I splurge every now and then. I like to travel. Like I'll go on a random trip because I allow my assets to pay for that. Like if I can keep as much money as I can in my pocket without having to pay my hard-earned money, then I'm gonna do that. Like the way that I look at it is I'm young, so I want to live a good life, but I also want to make sure that the assets that I'm building is creating more assets for it to come. Like I love real estate. That's something I want to do passionately for the rest of my life. And real estate investing is not cheap. Like let's,
It's
it's not
very,
cheap.
it's not at
And
all.
so whether you want to buy land, whether you want to buy a house and fix it and flip it, or you want to be a landlord or whatever aspect of real estate you want to do, you can't just go in there with zero money. Like, I really want people to understand. I've
Yeah.
talked to thousands of investors in my time working as a mortgage broker. I have had numerous conversations. Yes, you can do wholesale real estate, which I think a lot of people have heard of, but you do have to have some money to get
Money.
into the game and really grow. And so I'm blessed to say like a lot of my stocks, investments, and trades have allowed me to fund my future in the real estate business.
Okay.
Let me ask you this: for the people actually who can't get into real estate physically,
Mhm.
let them know about some of the real estate funds that they might be able to get into.
Ah,
The
that's
stock side.
smart. That's smart. So let me pull up one I actually like now. So it's really funny because PJ put me on to more real estate funds when we first got to talking back in the day
Shout
about it.
out.
Yeah. So
Shout out to you.
it's crazy because, for example, like you said, not everybody can buy real estate or get into real estate. But the same way, like I said, there's oil stocks, there's technology stocks, there's all different types of stocks like pharmaceuticals. It really does, like healthcare, like it really depends on what is your niche. And real
Yeah,
estate is a niche in the stock market. And the best part about it is you can again buy into these um companies like PLD, public storage, but my favorite one is Simon Property Group. So these bigger like commercial real estate groups who have been in the game and they pay dividends. And the dividends in real estate investments are huge compared to the dividends through regular stocks. Like,
yeah.
um,
It's almost like the car dealerships of the stock market for real, for real. Like they pay
yeah,
its commissions, they pay out for
Yeah.
real.
Isn't those
like
real estate investment funds they call REITs, right?
yeah, like REITs. You can
Yeah,
look those up. They're really good. Like I said, some of my favorite ones to get into, like stock wise, is Simon Property Group (SPG). They've got a lot of skin in the game. If you ever go to a Tanger outlets, those are their buildings. Those are their properties. Like they own
what?
those. Yeah, like they're the people who basically created Tanger, which a lot of people don't know. Like, who's this commercial real estate group? It's Simon Property Group. Majority of all those, CBRE group is another big one that I see a lot around, like all these big buildings, especially like businesses.
Yeah,
Um,
they do all our maintenance actually. I mean, all our maintenance for all our work stuff. They own all our buildings.
Yeah. So that one's a big one. I know a lot of like I've always been because I worked in commercial real estate. Like I kind of know like the bigger commercial real estate groups like JLL. That's another big one. Every time I drive around here in Charlotte, I literally see a big JLL sign like JLL Properties. Da 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 da. Like they own these buildings that are like all these apartments that are being built here in Charlotte. Every corner, literally every corner,
Yeah,
is probably from one of these three groups in some like aspect. Like you'll have some smaller ones too, but the big ones, Camden, stuff like that, they all
yeah,
come from these bigger ones.
yeah,
It's pretty crazy. Let's see. I'm trying to give a good plug on. Let's see. And like just to throw this out here, crypto is something you can invest in. I know a lot of people have been hearing a lot about crypto. So
Yeah.
even though I'm
yeah,
big in stocks, I do have a little skin in the game with crypto. I'm not gonna say I'm a crypto master. It's not something I trade all the time, but I will say the world is moving more towards digital currency.
yeah,
Um, like I'm not gonna lie, there was a point in time a year ago one of my best friends and I were talking and they were shocked that I didn't have my cards on my phone, like, Apple Pay and stuff like that. And I was like, no, I don't really trust that quite yet. Like me putting my information on my phone, anybody can hack my phone. I feel like the government can literally hear me now speaking about different stuff. Like that's just me.
Yeah.
yeah,
So they were like, but that's like where the world is going. And there was one day I did put like one card, and I remember I left my wallet somewhere, and they were like, "Oh, we accept Apple Pay," and I was like, "Oh shit! Like I actually have Apple Pay."
Yeah.
So it was crazy to think like, man, I can just tap my phone and walk out, not be questioned, don't need no wallet. I got my money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now it's getting to the point where if you have cryptocurrency, if you have Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever, you can pay for stuff using that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's
which is wicked. That's wicked.
wicked.
Because you would have never been able to walk up to your grandma's corner store and be like, "Hey, yo, look, I got these wooden coins. Can I pay with these?"
Yeah.
Like you could never, if it ain't a dollar or some change, you're not paying with it. This
Correct.
is definitely
And
revolutionary for everyone.
it's huge. And so like
Yeah.
even though you may not understand it, I think it's like you have to somewhat dive into it
Yeah. That's where the
um
world is going.
because that's where the world is going, and I would rather be ahead of the technology compared to behind it. Because like
Yeah.
when people say like, oh, we didn't think the internet was going to be as big as it is, well, look at it today. Like there's so many e-commerce, there's so many things, like everybody does everything online. Like
Yeah.
with TikTok now being a big thing, Instagram's still up there, people using Facebook ads, like, and I've heard even more about like the metaverse. Like you can literally get a job in the metaverse and be working on a virtual like it's kind of like Sims, but you're
For
literally
real.
living in this metaverse. Like it's Sims in real time. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. There's this girl, like she goes live at work in the metaverse. Like it's
Yeah.
so funny. It's
Yeah,
so
like I could
like and
own
she
real
making
estate.
money, making
Yeah.
money, making
Great, I
money.
can own real estate in the metaverse and then literally rent out my land for to somebody
Yep.
or rent out my property. I could own a business, hire employees, get paid, and
Yep. Yep.
what
On
for
a
something.
video game.
Yep.
It's really wild to
In
think
a video
where
game.
the world is headed. But I will say, if you are thinking about crypto, the safest thing to do is to get a hard wallet. You can go to Best
Yeah.
Buy. You can get it off of Amazon, but please get a hard wallet. Please don't just buy crypto on Cash App and stuff like that. Please be safe with how you take care of your cryptocurrency because it can easily be hacked. Like you
Yeah.
said, people are getting in technology world. There's a lot of different ways that people can get into your information by clicking a link on your email and all that other stuff. So please just get a hard wallet if you're going to invest with cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
I'm pretty big right now with Bitcoin and Ethereum. Those two are like my favorite ones. Because they're household names, right? You
Yeah.
invest in those. So that's definitely that little plug on that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, so
This
right
has
now, this
been a
is
wild conversation. This has
yeah.
been a wild conversation. I like it. I like it. I
No,
like it.
absolutely. I learned it. I'm taking notes, so I'm
Me
learning.
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm taking
like
notes.
take notes, be a learner of the game, ask questions. I always feel like when you surround yourself with people who want to learn, let alone have these conversations, you're
Yeah.
always willing to grow and learn in different aspects. I think another thing to really think about is if we get into this like conversation with like the world and the economy, right? Where inflation's at 8.2%. We spoke on that a little earlier with like so say you make 30, let's say you make $40,000 a year, right? If at your in-year review, some people get those, some people don't, but if you get an in-year review, you're only guaranteed potentially, and you ain't never actually guaranteed anything in this world, so let me say that. But if your manager, right, approves you to get a raise on your base pay, it's only going to be between 3 to 5%. And if inflation is at 8.2%, you're at a loss. And I want a lot of people to
Absolutely.
understand, please get ahead of having an emergency savings account with where the world is headed.
Yeah.
Please try and save up at least bare minimum 3 4 months of your savings, um, of your like rent, like expenses, right? Your rent, if you rent, your mortgage, your car payment, all that good stuff. Please have about 3 to 4 months of that. I think additionally, a lot of people need to understand, um, with the economic changes, the US dollar is not valued the same in other countries right now. That's another conversation that is becoming really, really big, especially with the United States versus this whole Russia thing. And I actually, if I'm going to be honest, I have been looking at buying gold, like actual gold,
Yeah.
like gold
Sure.
bars, gold nuggets, gold little coins. I don't care, because if we ever go into a space where the value of a dollar really isn't worth anything.
Gold always key.
Gold, precious metals, silver, things like that, rubies, that is valuable and that is currency in other
Yeah.
places. And that right now is a big conversation, and gold is up right now. Even in the stock market is up
Yeah.
because of that conversation right now in the news with Russia, Putin saying all that stuff about how they're not going to look at our dollar anymore like that. They're looking at gold and rubies. So oil prices are up right now. That's another thing. So gas, if you thought gas was gonna go down, it's not. No
Man,
time soon.
yeah.
It's a lot of different conversations that I think you guys are gonna start having on your podcast to really
Yeah,
open up the conversation to just help people be more prepared because it's getting real. In the next, like I said, 6 to 8 months.
for sure. And I'm glad we was able to definitely touch on those things because
Yeah.
that's it's the purpose of the podcast, not only to uplift people mentally, is we want to uplift people in every facet of their life, whether that's financially, whether that's mentally, of course, physically, but we want to hone in on a lot of these things, not only for us but for the viewers, so that way you know they can just evolve as a people,
Yeah.
so yeah, we definitely appreciate this. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get into our favorite part of the podcast, which is called the Fast Five. And so
Oh man.
and, and
So with this, you got 1 minute to answer 5 total questions. So you gotta beat the clock.
yeah,
You
Mm.
gotta beat the clock.
yeah.
Oh Lord, what kind of questions are these? Like, let me mentally somewhat prepare.
Uh,
We're
Great question.
good. Yeah, we'll give you something that you can answer quick, but you better answer them quick.
Yeah,
Okay, okay,
yeah.
okay, okay. Now I'm getting my game face on. Let's see if I can do this.
Yeah, you used to hoop, so you know what I'm saying. This
You
is
should
shot.
be
Yeah,
used to
being
it.
under
You
the
should
clock,
be.
This is
gaining them
clutch time.
suicides. Yeah.
This is clutch time. So, uh,
I'm
so,
gonna get. I'm gonna get this timer. I'm gonna get this timer together.
so,
I feel like
All
this
right,
is
I'm
giving
ready.
me Family Feud live. I like this.
yeah, definitely. All right, you ready, Drake?
Yeah, you gonna ask the questions?
Yeah.
Facts.
All right.
Starting now.
What was your biggest win?
Oof. In the stock market, 15,000 in less than 3 months.
What was your biggest loss?
3,000 on an earnings play.
Okay. How do you boost your self love?
My Bible.
What is one memory from your life you'll hold on to forever?
Ooh, sitting on my grandma's lap.
30 seconds.
Yeah. What is the hardest mistake to avoid while trading?
The noise.
And always, all right, that's five.
It's
Yeah.
4.
Oh, there's four. What is one question you wish we'd asked you and how you answered?
Ooh, one question I wish you would have asked me is, ooh,
Nine
where
seconds.
I'm projected to retire, and I'm projected to retire at 35.
Yeah,
Oh, she beat
she beat it.
it.
I,
Yo,
I could have
that's
sworn that
wild.
was five questions.
Right. I don't know whether it was 5 or 6, but when you get in the
Yeah,
flow of things, you just going.
yeah. Well, if that was five, we have to play it back. If that was six, I think you the first person to beat six questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you definitely the first person to beat six questions.
It's crazy though, because I was just like sitting here thinking like real quick, like, yikes. Um, but no, though, that's
Overtime.
real.
Sorry.
Yeah, overtime.
Yeah, yeah,
But those are all real answers. It's all real possible and doable. And like when I say, like for that last question, whether it was the fifth one or the sixth one, when I say I put a goal to my mind. My dad retired 4 years ago, at like 58, 59. Um, I had knew right then I did not want to work that long for someone else. So when I say retire, I really plan on retiring from working for a company or a 9 to 5
Yeah.
by the age of 35. Um, that means that I'm confident in my own business, within my own self, my own goals, to do that based off of the assets and the things that I'm doing right now. It doesn't happen overnight. I've been consistent with a plan, and that comes with sacrifices. What I think a lot of people need to understand is sacrificing certain things now really does give you a better life and perspective in the future. You just have to be willing to go through those changes, right? Mentally and
Right.
emotionally and physically, understanding that it's not going to be easy, right?
Yeah.
And this is the time to do it.
And so you said retired at 35. So is that in like 9 to 10 years for you?
Yeah, 9 years.
Yeah.
I'm getting so intentional where I'm trying to find the exact date, right? Like I'm gonna put a date on it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of goals that I have set, and I know that during this time, that's a very hard goal, but it's a realistic goal at the same time because a lot of people's life can change in 5 years or less, right? And I'm giving myself additional grace, right?
Yeah.
And I think people got to understand that grace and giving yourself patience and understanding is huge. Everybody's life is different, everybody's circumstances are different, and understanding your time is your time, whether you're 26, whether you're 21, or you're 35, 40. Whatever phase you are in, it's your life, that's your phase, and it's meant for you right there. And I just think that right now where I'm at, it's meant for bigger things in the next 9 to 10 years.
Wow. That is definitely inspiring because you know, a lot of people, you see on social media, they have these plans where you get rich quick schemes, basically.
Right.
Yeah, and you can make $1 million tomorrow, and that's just not feasible unless you hit the lottery or you run it up at a casino. Um,
Right.
and coming
That's
for
an honest conversation. That's an
yeah,
honest conversation. That's the one thing I don't like about social media is that it paints this picture sometimes that they don't want to talk about the struggle in between. That's
yeah,
why, like, this is one of my favorite cups. That's why I made it this morning. It's really where it says enjoy the journey.
yeah,
Um, because in college I didn't work. Let's be honest, I didn't work. I played ball. I went to school. That was my biggest focus, and I kind of blame myself in a way that I didn't do more during my 4 years of playing basketball to like actually work or to make money or to do certain things to expand my knowledge. But I also understand, yo, you were a kid, man. You went from Rocky Mount to Charlotte, North Carolina, living your best life, and
yeah,
you have to give yourself that type of patience, right? And that understanding. And like, there was times when I was in college, like I think many of us probably experienced, and if you didn't, it was my experience. Like, I remember like having like that negative $1.25 in my account, wondering like, damn, mom, dad, y'all got a
yeah,
couple, you got something to spare. And I
yeah,
remember when I got out of school where my mindset just started to change, and I was like, okay, I want to make a certain amount of money by a certain time. How do I do that? How do I grind? How do I figure that out? But in the process, just like I said, be patient because it doesn't happen overnight. Some people do have those overnight excesses, but that's what's meant for them. And
yeah,
I think that sometimes just going along the journey really helps. Like,
yeah,
be kind to yourself because ain't nobody else gonna be kind to you. Like,
That's
really.
real. Got to be
yeah,
gentle with yourself too, man. You gotta.
yeah,
Yeah, because I learned real quick in my professional career, though I have done not necessarily the job hop, but like you could say job hop. I just always put myself in better situations to learn, right? I feel like if I no longer am learning within my career for my employer, then I need to move, right? I need to expand my knowledge in my mind. So I always put it this way: your 9 to 5 is not going to always love you or care for you or be there for you at the hardest times, but you can do that for yourself.
mhm,
Um, whether you start a t-shirt business, whether you do any type of business, everything has value because you're behind it. So as long as you stand behind what you believe in, man,
mhm,
the endless possibilities are real. I just think the stock market is something that will help me fund. That's the crazy part.
yeah.
The stock market will help me fund those things that I want to do for the rest of my life.
That's amazing. Man, definitely hats off to you. Kudos to you for just having that mindset and to not only have the mindset to go from the thoughts to putting it on paper and from putting it on paper to putting it into action and
Yeah,
and to allowing yourself to make mistakes and to fail and to pick yourself up from there because I know throughout my time in college um I was I'm part of the microwave generation. I'm right after the millennials, so I want everything fast. I fell for
Right.
everything saying get rich tomorrow because, coming from Rocky Mount, I didn't have, um,
Yeah.
Nashville, Rocky Mount. I didn't have those things. I wanted the nice shoes. I'm seeing everybody in college. I know I mentioned nice shoes all the time, but just, I just wanted a better quality of life for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And there's nothing wrong with wanting that. And I think that's
yeah,
where it starts is like, I remember I even like submersed myself, like, cause I went to a PWI. So like that was hard within itself for me because I really looked at like how the world looked at me
yeah,
without me even knowing. Cause like us being from Rocky Mount, everybody looks very much alike. And
yeah,
you can have similar things and conversations and understandings that other people don't get. But really, I think right now, my biggest hope and dream, other than just giving back to not only the city of Rocky Mount, but like that understanding of like, you have to have those deep conversations about what the world is really like
yeah,
and not just Rocky Mount.
That's
Like, Rocky
yes.
Mount itself is a great place, don't get me wrong. And I know it's got like a lot of negative connotation, but the things that we can do now that we're getting older to change that narrative, right? Like we can genuinely change the narrative because we are products of our environment.
right. Absolutely.
So I encourage you to do that.
Yeah. And speaking of speaking of moving forward and what I'm saying and realizing what's best for us, what's next for you?
Mm, that's such a great question. Because right now I am very much adamant about what I'm passionate about, which is real estate. I want to do a lot in real estate, not necessarily being like a landlord, but I have a mission now that I have worked in the last year in mortgages and now working in the finance part of like institutional banking. My biggest passion is helping people understand what they need to do to have home ownership and if it's actual plausible for you. Not everybody needs to own, and I think I need to make that clear too. It's okay if you rent. It's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But having ownership is a different level of feeling of okay, this can't be taken away from me, right? But also being in that mindset of like, what did I do to even obtain this ownership? And I think that is what I'm super passionate about when it comes to real estate, is really being that educational change. So what I'm working on currently right now is not only just with your brother, but currently here, how can we change that mindset of how to like accomplish and own things, right? Creating that like generational wealth, while also building my own career in real estate. Like I want to create some beautiful properties. I want to find things that people look at and say like that's absolutely hideous. Like it
Mhm.
literally is run down, and creating something where a family, aka where we come from, haven't been able to ever seen, and they can afford it.
Yeah.
Why? Because like it's like I genuinely believe that a lot of things keep people from experiencing what life can really be like, right? When
Yeah.
it's not afforded to them. And I think that's like the craziest part is like you want to be in the safest neighborhood, but your neighborhood that you're in is safe. You just have to create that environment.
Right. Absolutely.
Um, so yeah, no, that's really what I'm working on, real hard in building capital, to buy some of these properties that I want to do a lot of projects on. Also, just really networking.
Yeah.
I've been trying to go to more conferences, really shake a lot of hands, and introduce myself um, in the room. Because I want to be invited into these rooms where these people are having these conversations. I don't want people to feel like I'm not accessible.
You're
I
just
think
as like, yeah, just as knowledgeable as everyone else too. So it's like you just want to make sure that the community knows you're there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I might not always be like in Rocky Mount, which sometimes is like within itself. Like I've always struggled with that. Like if I'm
Yeah.
being honest, not being in Rocky Mount near my family has been difficult. But I also know for the greater good, for the longer purpose of what I'm trying to do, that everything that I do has Rocky Mount in the back of my mind.
Right.
Um, and I think that's what people forget. Like it's okay to leave, as long as you have not necessarily have the intention of coming back and doing things, but understanding that you want to be a greater purpose. Like when I
Right.
say I'm from Rocky Mount, North Carolina, up here in Charlotte, I'm proud to say that. And
For
some
sure.
people and some people know what that means, and some people don't know what Rocky Mount means. And
Yeah.
I think that's the great part about it.
Mhm.
And so I'm being more, like I said, accessible. Like I want people in Rocky Mount to know that they can reach out to me at any time, whether that's on Instagram, whether that's on Facebook, whether that's a text or a phone call, and know that I can provide some assistance. And if I can't get you that answer because I don't feel confident giving you that answer, I'm gonna find it for you, because I think that's the hard part, is that people aren't getting the opportunities to be accessible,
Yeah.
to the figures that they want to be like, right? Or the people that they look up to. And that's always hard. Like if I could
Yeah.
sit down with, Mark Cuban, I would do it. But
Yeah.
can I get to him? Nah, not right now. I can't.
Yeah, that's real. And speaking of being accessible, where can the viewers find you at home?
Yeah, so I'm actually on Instagram. That's really a big thing for me. So on Instagram, you can always contact me at luckycarm_3. Reach out to me, Carmen Richardson, on Facebook. You can find me. Shoot me a DM. I'm happy to answer. I might not always answer right away, depending on my schedule, but I always get to you within a day or two. Feel free to ask me any questions. I'm open to expanding your knowledge and what this game has done for me, in the stock market and everywhere else, like honestly. So that's where you can find me. Feel free. I'm pretty open. I'm an extrovert, so I'm always going to talk your head off somewhat.
All right. Well,
Let it hear it.
yeah,
Love
definitely. And for everybody watching at home, remember, it's all love, and we're out.